Coming up, for the second time in a week, a New York City police officer has been shot, and for the second time, a suspect is a man out on parole. We'll have the latest.
We'll also have the latest returns from Iowa, where Democrats turned out tonight to begin selecting their candidate for president.
A politician from New Jersey on guard for her life halfway around the world, and an international hitman gambles in jail and loses his life.
John Coleman's forecast for cooler weather, and Warner with tonight's wrestling. Next.
This is Channel 2 News at 11 with Rollin Smith, Michelle Marsh, Warner Wolf on sports, and John Coleman with the weather.
Good evening, everyone. As expected tonight in the Iowa caucuses, Walter Mondale appears to be the clear winner among Democrats. We'll have a complete report in just a few minutes, but first, this major local story. An undercover narcotics police officer is recovering in Columbia Presbyterian Hospital tonight from bullet wounds, and for the second time in less than a week, one of the suspects is a man out on parole. 36-year-old officer Joseph Kroon is in critical condition tonight, shot in the face today while on drug parole in Harlem. Police rushed to the scene in force to conduct a massive manhunt, and a search for the suspect is underway. Another suspect was found at the scene, wounded in a shootout with police. Police say 27-year-old Donald Lee of Harlem had 6 prior arrests and was just paroled last month.
Now, since January of 1983, he's been on parole and has been arrested at least once in September of 1983 for possession of a controlled substance, resisting arrest, and a burglary again. So, and his parole has not been revoked.
Was that somewhat of a surprise when it was learned that the parole hadn't been revoked?
Well, we wondered why it hadn't been revoked, yes.
Even before Police Commissioner Benjamin Ward knew that one of the suspects was a man out on parole, he was enraged. And Chris Borgen has that story and the complete story of today's shootout.
Yeah, I can't get used to it. It sounds like it's open season on police officers, and I think it's some reflection on some of the craziness that seems to be going on in our society, that it's just okay to shoot at police officers.
The 2 officers had been staked out in the flat to observe drug sales in the street, then to radio ahead to a backup team assigned to make arrests. But sometime today, someone had spotted the undercover police operation and retaliated.
Then all of a sudden, the garbage started to be thrown at the windows. The officers went back into the, they told their sergeant over the radio that they thought they were being made. Just then, somebody entered the darkened, abandoned apartment. A gunshot fire ensued. One of the officers was struck.
Question: did the gunmen, said to be enforcers for the neighborhood drug dealers, realize their targets were police officers?
I don't think in this situation that there was any doubt in anybody's mind that these were, in fact, police officers. And they deliberately and intentionally came to that place.
That thorough manhunt at the scene of the shootout uncovered a .45 caliber handgun and a second weapon, both used by the so-called enforcers. But not even the police search dog, Duke, was able to turn up any clues to the whereabouts of the fugitive, who appeared to have made a miracle getaway.
It's a difficult building. It's burnt out. The floors are missing, stairs are missing. He had to fly to get in there and had to fly to get back out again. I don't know where he is.
Neighborhood residents are no strangers to drug traffic. 2 years ago, police broke up one of the area's major drug operations, a $1 million a year operation known as Black Thursday, and operated by the notorious Hilliard brothers, now serving long prison terms. This is Chris Borgen, Channel 2 News.
The revelation that one of the suspects in today's attack was out on parole is bound to create more pressure to reform or abolish the parole system. The public outcry started last week when police officer Thomas Ruotolo was shot to death, allegedly by a man who was paroled after serving a short sentence for manslaughter. Earlier today, New York's top law enforcement official, Attorney General Robert Abrams, called for the abolition of parole. Abrams said the public would have more confidence in the criminal justice system if all criminals were given definitive sentences.
Police are also looking tonight for a second suspect in the fatal shooting of police officer Angelo Brown. The 28-year-old Brown was gunned down last month while off duty at a Brooklyn social club. 19-year-old Ronald Bush of Brooklyn has already been charged with homicide in the shooting, but police say Bush did not act alone. They're looking tonight for 26-year-old Stephen Chersey, also of Brooklyn. Police say Chersey and Bush robbed Officer Brown, then Chersey shot him in the neck with Brown's gun.
When convicted financier Michele Sindona goes to federal court tomorrow to fight extradition to Italy, his co-defendant will not be there. Accused hitman William Arrico was killed in a fall when he and another prisoner tried to escape from the 9th floor of a Manhattan jail last night. Italian officials want to try Sindona for murder, charging he hired Arrico to kill a bank auditor who had been looking into his banking operations. Sindona is already serving a 25-year prison term for masterminding the collapse of the Franklin National Bank in 1974.
And still to come tonight on Channel 2 News at 11, full coverage of tonight's Iowa caucuses, including today's setback for the president. So stay with us. The first returns are coming in, and it is the first test of Campaign 84 of the Iowa caucuses. They come on a day when President Reagan tried to upstage the 8 Democratic candidates traveling to Iowa himself. And part of tonight's Democratic results were expected. Some are coming as a surprise. Dan Rather reports from Des Moines.
CBS News estimates that Walter Mondale has won the Iowa caucuses. Mondale holds a clear and commanding lead and may wind up getting roughly half the vote in an 8-man race. Behind Mondale, way behind him, in the political dogfight of the night, Senator Gary Hart has emerged in the number 2 spot, according to our CBS News estimate, and CBS News now estimates that Gary Hart will finish second in Iowa. Hart has been in a close fight with Alan Cranston and George McGovern all evening long. And the other big story of the night, the disappointing showing of John Glenn, who has been trailing the others mentioned. So tonight, a joyous Walter Mondale has shut out the man who was not long ago considered his only serious rival. That's the night so far. Good news for Mondale, bad news for Glenn, and a boost, it seems, for Senator Gary Hart of Colorado. The Republicans are holding their own caucuses tonight. Ronald Reagan is unopposed. Early indications are it's not a squeaker. Complete Iowa caucus coverage later this evening in our special report at 11:30, 10:30 Central Time. Until then, Dan Rather at CBS News headquarters in Des Moines.
And the Democrats are not hiding their irritation at the president's trip to Iowa today, calling it a, quote, cheap political stunt. There's no question the trip was timed to steal the Democrats' thunder, and Mr. Reagan wasted little time getting down to campaign rhetoric. Using heavy sarcasm, he criticized the Democrats as having, quote, a dinosaur mentality.
Let them promise the moon. They'll deliver green cheese. If the big spenders get their way, they'll charge everything on your taxpayer's express card, and believe me, they never leave home without it.
But much of Iowa is still in the grip of recession, and there's evidence the president's popularity is slipping in the nation's heartland.
Unless something is done, I'm not going to be here, and neither are many others like me. We just can't afford to support him. It's just that simple.
Negative sentiments about the president were reflected in a new poll published in today's Des Moines Registrar. It shows the president's approval rating has slipped 12 points in Iowa since the first of the year. Tonight, Mr. Reagan reacted to that poll, saying, "I always run scared, so I'll catch up."
Reports from Lebanon tonight indicate an armored column of Israeli troops is heading north from Israeli positions along the Awali River. The troops are reportedly moving toward the town of Damor, now held by Druze Muslims. The Israelis deny making any major move north, but they do admit that they are sending patrols north to guarantee their security. The Lebanese army is hanging on to its last stronghold tonight, the mountaintop town of Souk el-Garb, guarding the presidential palace against heavy fire from Muslim militias. Below in Beirut, U.S. forces continue removing equipment and non-combat forces to offshore ships today. The Marines are expected to be completely evacuated within 1 week.
What have we accomplished? I really don't know. I came here kind of at the end of the whole ordeal, but as far as accomplishing much, I don't really see much.
The 1,200-man Italian peacekeeping contingent completed its withdrawal from Beirut today. Soon after, Shiite Muslim fighters took over the Italians' military headquarters. As the Italians left, U.S. equipment arrived to help the Lebanese army battle the Muslim rebels.
A letter to the Italian news agency today said the Red Brigade's terrorist group has targeted a second unnamed U.S. diplomat for assassination. The letter claims the Red Brigades were behind last week's assassination of Lehman Hunt, the civilian director general of the multinational force in the Sinai, which enforces the Camp David Accord. Italian police are not convinced the letter is authentic, but U.S. diplomats are taking extra safety precautions anyway. Former New Jersey Congresswoman Millicent Fenwick is one of those diplomats. She is now U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization in Rome. Mrs. Fenwick says she's often a prisoner in her own house when she's left without her armor-plated bulletproof limousine.
And coming up, John Coleman's back-to-work forecast, and they call it the Death Star. We'll tell you its story when we come back. Scientists call it the Death Star, and they can't be sure that it really exists. But researchers at the University of California think a star that no one has ever seen orbits past Earth every 26 million years. And they say this star causes huge meteor showers, showers powerful enough to destroy life on Earth that cannot adapt to dust and cold and the dark. Scientists believe that meteors from the star passing by 65 million years ago killed the dinosaurs. The next time it passes, it could kill, they say, most living things on Earth again. But we should not fear. The star nicknamed Nemesis isn't expected to be back our way for another 15 million years.
Closer to Earth. A week ago, we first told you about that huge pothole that closed 2 lanes of the Long Island Expressway in the westbound direction. Today, the city's Department of Transportation said the lanes will be open again by tomorrow morning. But not all the delays are over. Crews are still finishing up their repairs, so the Woodhaven Boulevard entrance to the westbound LIE will stay closed for a while. Weather now with John Coleman. What's new?
You're sure that wasn't a big meteor that produced that pothole?
That was.
We weathermen had always thought it was the Ice Age that killed the dinosaurs.
See? What was caused by those meteors, maybe, huh?
Maybe, maybe. You have probably heard, I know Michelle said it a few minutes ago, that I am predicting cooler weather. Don't get panicked. I'm predicting a slight and brief cool snap. It is not a return to winter or a big deal. At 11 o'clock tonight, on the other hand, it's dark and dreary out, and it has been dark and dreary about 80% of the time for the past week. Too much cloudiness, leave you singing the blues. Well, tomorrow, we're going to attach a hook to those clouds and try to drag some of them away so that you can live on the sunny side of the street. About time, isn't it? There are still lots of clouds around tonight as viewed from space. This is New York, and you can see that there is some clearing over parts of New Jersey and Connecticut. But flurries are still falling at Binghamton tonight and across a good part of New York State. They're just flurries, no hefty snow, and this is not from an organized storm. It's from the cooler air moving in across the lakes and mountains. After being up to 52, we're down to 42 at 11 o'clock tonight. That's not cold, but it's cooler. West wind at 10, producing a wind chill of 29. You walk a few blocks or wait for a bus a while, you'll feel it. And you can see in tomorrow's forecast high temperature map how that cool air is making a dent in the temperature pattern across the Great Lakes area particularly. All of this is caused by a storm track to the north, and as the storm departs up to St. Lawrence, the cooler air is coming in. But look, that winter storm track is still way to the north. The spring storm track is showing up in the Gulf of Mexico, and that leaves us in New York City in between, left out of really any significant storminess from either storm track. You can see in tomorrow's weather map how the flurries will be continuing at dawn in the mountains and around the lakes, but they will be ending during the afternoon and departing with nothing particularly ominous on the horizon. So I predict that we'll have a cool early morning, down to the freezing mark in the inland counties and about 36 in Central Park. Tomorrow afternoon, goodly sunshine, but some lingering clouds. More sun than today, I think. High 47. And we'll clear the sky out altogether tomorrow evening, and the mercury will drop down into the 30s. And tomorrow night, Wednesday morning, will be our chilliest spell. Then we'll start the warm-up. You can see that in the 5-day outlook. Wednesday's high 42. That'll be the reading we have right now as a high. That's cooler. But then Thursday up to 50, Friday 52. Slight cooling, but dry and clear for the weekend is our Monday expectation. But I'll work 4 more days this week and change my mind 4 times, I'm afraid, Rollin.
No, not you, John. So those 42, 48 temperatures, 50s, normal for this time of year?
No, our normal high this time of year is 40. So we have been consistently about 10 degrees above normal for the past, ever since Groundhog's Day.
So it's really holding true then when you said you kind of broke the back of winter, I guess, was your word?
Groundhog, he didn't know what he was talking about.
Did you see your shadow that day?
Absolutely.
Members of the U.S. Olympic team began returning to the U.S. this afternoon, some of them bringing home medals, all of them carrying home memories. Channel 2's Jane Mitchell was at Kennedy Airport when the planes arrived.
The crowd at JFK Airport broke into a round of applause as America's Olympic athletes returned home tonight. As a group, they did not win as many medals as U.S. teams have in past Winter Games. Still, these athletes came home feeling they had made America proud.
We did great. We did fine. No complaints. Everybody's home, safe, had a good time. Did our best. That's all we can do.
Yeah, I guess the medal really wasn't as important as the performance my sister and I had for ourselves.
Still, it was Peter Carruthers who, with his sister Kitty, won America's first medal at the Games, a silver. The Carruthers, two adopted children from Wilmington, Delaware, had practiced together since childhood, preparing for that moment.
It's something that you can't really even put into words. It's a feeling that you just have to live through. It's the highest point in my whole life.
But the years of training were an anticlimax for ski jumper Matt Petrie. He hurt his arm practicing before he even had a chance to compete. Still, win or lose, America's Olympic athletes feel just being a part of the Games meant scoring a big victory for better relations between the peoples of the world.
I mean, we get along with everybody over there, no matter what the country. I mean, in our case, 2 Russians placed ahead of us in second and third, and that was kind of frustrating. But, you know, there's still, you say hi, you know, you're cordial. And I hope that it could rub off on the rest of the things going on in the world today.
Jane Mitchell, Channel 2 News, Kennedy Airport.
Just ahead, Mayor Koch abroad and Warner with all the night sports, including wrestling from the Garden. Stay with us. Some good news for you now. Students across New York State are doing better on standardized tests. The state education department says third-grade students did better on math and reading tests than they did a decade ago. And the department says sixth graders also did better in both math and reading. High school students got better grades in 1983 on college entrance exams and scholarships.
There was an exam today of sorts from one of New York State senators. The area has been called a drug supermarket, and today Senator Alphonse D'Amato went there to see if the latest police crackdown is succeeding in cutting down on drug sales. The New York Republican linked what he saw, namely an absence of pushers and users on the Lower East Side. D'Amato said the cops have done a spectacular job, making more than 2,000 arrests in the last month. But some people living nearby complain the arrests simply have forced the dealers to do business a few blocks away.
Mayor Koch says he is mixing a little business with pleasure as he tours Europe this week. Today he met in Rome with Italy's President Sandro Pertini and compared notes on big city government with the communist mayor of Rome, Ugo Viteri. Koch is hoping for a private audience with Pope John Paul on Wednesday before he moves on to West Germany.
Let's check up on the sports now. Here's Warner Wolf.
All right, thank you, Roland. All right, what about the Richard Todd deal? If you're going to trade Todd, all right. In all fairness to Todd, let's face it, he was not the most consistent quarterback of all time. He'd have big days, then he'd have bad days. But, come on, give us a break. If you're going to trade Todd, then get something for him. They gave Todd away. You got to get more than a 15th player available in the draft. The guy was a starting quarterback. Now, if the Jets didn't think Todd was that good, then why did they start him all 16 games last year? And if the Jets knew they were going to trade Todd, then why didn't they let the other kid, O'Brien, play some games? Now the Jets have 2 quarterbacks, Ryan and O'Brien, who have never started a game in the National Football League. Local college basketball tonight, Connecticut beat Providence 62-59. Let's go to the videotape. Providence in the visiting Dart. 3 guys off the bench for Providence. Brian Waller, 17 points. Here is Ray Knight. He had 6 points. And Ernie Pop Lewis. Ernie had 6 points tonight. Providence by 4 at the half. But in the second half, Connecticut in the white. Eddie Williams, 10 points. Vicente Ithier for Connecticut drives, stops, and shoots. And Carl Hobbs had 6 points tonight. Hobbs swish. Connecticut wins by 3. The CUNY tournament, Staten Island, John J. Lehman and Evers all won. Moving into the semifinals, Megan Evers rather. And Manhattan beat Lafayette by 2. Howard over Brooklyn College. All right. 1 game in the National Hockey League at Bloomington late in the 3rd period. The Kings 3, North Stars 2. Let's go to the videotape. It's Minnesota in the home white. The Kings in the dark, the breakaway by Smith, the save, Taylor rebound, 1-0, beating Beaupre. 53 seconds later, it'll be Wells shooting, and McLennan puts it in to make it 2-0. In the second period, the North Stars come back. Willie Plett to Brent Ashton, no relation to Betsy Ashton. It's 2-1. 4 minutes later, Broughton to Brian Bellows, it's 2-2. It's now 3-2 Kings in the third period. All right, wrestling from the Garden. Let's go to the videotape. First of all, here we bring in Tony Gurria in the blue, the Wild Samoan #1 in the black. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, and boom, over the back. Here he comes. And look at this. Here's a new move. It's Gurria and the Samoan wins. Then it's Iron Sheik against Eddie Gilbert. Take that on the head, Sheik. And there goes Gilbert and the Sheik. Here they come over the back. There they go. A leapfrog. And comes right there. 1, 2, 3. But the Sheik wins the match. Then it's Tito Santana against the magnificent Morocco. And look what happens to the Morocco. That's it right there. He's counted out. Andre the Giant, and with a foot in the face to the masked superstar. And 484 pounds goes on the superstar, and it's all over. Then the champion, Incredible Hulk Hogan, good friend of Michelle Marsh's, against Paul Orndorff. And the Hulk goes down. But then, here comes the Hulk, picking up Orndorff, throws him out of the ring, and the Hulk retains his championship. Superfly Snuka and the Wild Samoan #3. And look at these moves. Snuka Fly, there he goes. Look at that, backwards. Here he comes, and boom. But here comes the finish. Superfly, boom, that's it. 1, 2, 3, and the Superfly wins. All right, let's go to the videotape, the feature race at Aqueduct. It is Entrepay on the outside, Cannon Shell on the inside, and Rocky Marriage in between horses. Entrepay on the outside. It is #4, Entrepay, winning by a length of 3/4, paying $7.40. And the feature race at Hialeah today, won by Devil's Bag, of course, the favorite to win the Kentucky Derby. This is Warner Wolf. Folks.
It was nice to see the Hulk again.
You're a good friend.
Well, it's been a long time. Thank you, Warner. It's Channel 2 News at 11. I'm Michelle Marsh. Good night.
I'm Rollin Smith. Well, I'll be back tomorrow night at 11. We ask you to stay tuned to the CBS News Special Report with Dan Rather on the Iowa caucuses. Good night.